Let me start with a question. How many of you know a person with a disability? How about put your hands up if you know a professional with a disability? Not many, it seems, not many. Well, I can help you out there. Hi, I'm Paul. I'm totally blind. I use a guide dog. I'm a former Paralympian. I'm also a lawyer. I'm a company director, and I'm an associate professor here at the T.C. Burns School of Law at the University of Queensland. So, now everyone, put your hands up. You all know a professional with a disability. Let me ask you another question. How many of you know what it's like to live with a disability? Not many? I've got to say, join the club. You see, when I was born, I wasn't blind. I didn't have a disability. At the age of 14, things changed. So, on the 11th of October, 1993, I was playing basketball, shooting hoops, watching the sunset over my backyard pool. Then on the 12th of October, 1993, I was in hospital. When I woke, doctors told me, they said, Paul, you're blind. You've been hit by a train accident. Well, over the next few weeks, I was told how my life would be discounted, my opportunities in employment, education, and life would be disabled, be less. Well, my family, and my parents in particular, are very optimistic people. We don't focus on problems, we focus on solutions. So we set about working out how I could have a more fulfilling life. It was looking good. And then at 14, I returned to school. First couple of days, everybody had their textbooks in class. Print textbooks, great, I'm blind, I can't read print, right? So I had my books on computer, copyright concerns. They offered me Braille. I've been blind for a few weeks, guys, come on. I can't read Braille yet. So they gave me books on cassette tape. That took a few weeks, so I was behind the 8 ball. And then in class, they were utterly useless. Teacher says, could everyone please turn to page 35 and read from halfway down? I've got a pile of cassette tapes. I just, why? Right. And I asked myself, why? Why did I have a second class educational opportunity? And I went on, and then later than after that, I went out for a coffee with a friend of mine who happened to be in a wheelchair. We had to enter via the side entrance. Why? Why wasn't the front door accessible to him? And, well, by the end of high school, I had a mission, and I had a vision of ability equality. My high school each year publishes a yearbook. In that yearbook, they included quotes from the graduating Year 12 class. In 1997, my quote was, "You don't need sight to have vision." The world is divided on ability lines. On one hand, you have people with disabilities. On the other, those who are defined as able-bodied or not having disabilities. Now this translates into a world of them and us. My vision, my dream is not for a world of them and us, but instead just of a world where there is us. But we're not there yet. The labour force rate of people with disabilities has not shifted in this country for 15 years. We are ranked 21 out of the OECD, the rich countries in the world, for our employment rate of persons with disabilities. We are not doing very well, to be honest. Today, I'm going to talk to you about how change is possible and how change is occurring. Today, I'm going to talk to you about universities that have become disability champions of change. Universities produce research and innovation which transforms the world. Persons with disabilities must benefit from this research and innovation agenda. Universities also train students with disabilities in their disciplinary skills, but they also need to train those students in leadership skills and how to cope in what is, and I say unfortunately, often a disabling workforce. Students without disabilities must be exposed to diversity and inclusion messages throughout their course so they benefit from a full education. Then there is employment. Universities are major employers, and must be employing people with disabilities across the workforce as professional staff, such as administrative assistants, accountants, marketing, librarians, and the like, in teaching roles, teaching fellows, associate lecturers, all the way up to full professors. Also in management as deans, directors, and yes, even as vice-chancellors. For 30 years or more in this country, we've had anti-discrimination laws and related policies that have promoted disability inclusion. And I can attest, as a staff member now and former student, that we have a number of people working across the sector, numerous people, in areas such as diversity and inclusion groups, disability services, equity, all promoting disability inclusion. They're also in general areas such as the library, in the faculties, the schools and the institutes where staff and students with disabilities work and study. So what's happening? Why don't we have ability equality? One reason is we are not being fully included. We are not included in the committees, the governance structures, the decision-making bodies. Ask yourself, does your university have a diversity and inclusion group? Does it have diversity and inclusion targets? If it doesn't, it should. If it does, are persons with disabilities on the diversity and inclusion group committees? Is disability a diversity and inclusion target? Do you have a group that specialises in disability inclusion? If so, is it led by people with disabilities? Beyond the diversity and inclusion groups or the human rights groups, disability is also relevant in those areas that are not disability specific. For example, if you are constructing a building, disability inclusion matters. If you are purchasing hardware or software, disability inclusion matters. Preparing teaching materials, disability inclusion matters. People with disabilities must be included across these groups. Now, many of you here will think, how can we find that many people with disabilities, right? Well, I'm here to tell you today they are here in the sector now. Most universities in Australia report approximately 5% of its student population comes forward requesting support. They say, I have a disability and I would like reasonable adjustments, please. 5%. Universities Australia, the peak body for universities in this country, reports there's approximately 1.5 million students in university in Australia now. That translates to 75,000 students with disabilities here today. Let me contextualise that for you. That means 75,000. Compare it. Cambridge University, Oxford University, they have about 20,000 students each. Harvard University, just over 35,000. UCLA, just over 45,000. University of Queensland, where we gather here today, has just over 50,000 students. Outside the university sector, people with disabilities are there. The Group of 8 Limited, another peak university body, estimates about 16% of Australia's population has a disability. 16%. We have 24 million people in this country. That's 3.8 million people with disabilities. So people with disabilities are here in Australia, both in the sector and more broadly. And if you haven't been including with people with disabilities, join the club, it's been common. But now, the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities has transformed it. This convention has been drafted and implemented and now continues this paradigm of nothing about us without us. This enshrines the right for persons with disabilities to demand a right to be included at the drafting, implementation and monitoring stages of laws and policies that impact upon persons with disabilities. This is transformational, but it's now gone further. United Nations practices and many disability scholars now adopt the approach of nothing about us unless it is led by us. And I want to let you think about this from your own point of view. You here all today, what it feels like when your voices are not heard. So many of you here will have a different skin colour perhaps than the person sitting next to you or the other people in the room. Perhaps you have a different sexual preference. Perhaps you speak another language at home. And gender. Well, statistically 50% of the room are women, so let's go with that. Now, if you're a female, your history is pretty grim. You didn't have the right to vote, didn't have the right to own property, and today there is still a gender pay gap. Women are still not included in decision-making bodies that impact upon them. So women, how does it feel when decisions are made for you and not by you? Well, I can tell you how it feels for people with disabilities when decisions are made for us and not by us. It tells us we are not included. It tells us we are not represented. It tells us we are not participating, and it tells us we are not heard. And I'm telling you here today, it's time for change. I'm telling you change is possible. And how do I know it's possible? Because it's happening. It's happening in many fine institutions and fine universities that promote ability equality. Many fine institutions, such as this one here. When I started at the University of Queensland back in 2011, I wanted the disability voice heard. I wanted to be included. So I walked around, knocking on doors, literally. Knock, knock, knock at the school level. Knock, knock, knock on the faculty level. Even at the university level, I'm knocking, knock, knock, knock. And I got included on many committees. I even joined academic board. But the real difference happened. The real change occurred when I focused on strategy. Strategy dictates how a university operates. Strategy dictates operational change. And so I sought out the strategy that guided disability inclusion, and I found one. The University of Queensland has had a disability action plan since 1999. Now this demonstrates a sustained commitment to disability inclusion and to diversity inclusion more broadly. So I was pretty happy. So then I went out to find the people with disabilities who will be running the committee, the specialised group that would monitor the disability action plan. Turns out there wasn't one. I wanted that changed because these disability action plans, they were high-level documents. They were high level. They were impactful. They were created with the support of people with disabilities under the Disability Discrimination Act, signed off by Vice-Chancellors, lodged before university senates, and then lodged with the Australian Human Rights Commission, who published them on their website. They impact on staff, students, how we operate, marketing, communications, the physical space, the digital space. They are wide-ranging documents. So I wanted this group, this action plan, to have a person with disability-driven group, a specialised group. How did I do it? Well, I built up the courage, walked across to the university chancellery and knocked on the door again. Knock, knock, knock. My voice was heard. The 2015 iteration of the plan included such a group in the plan. It's now written into the strategy. This group is called the University of Queensland Disability Inclusion Group, or as we call it, the UQ DIG. Now the UQ DIG has staff and students with disabilities on it. It has key representatives from across the university. We also receive updates each year from the schools and faculties on how they're going implementing the Disability Action Plan. This is powerful because we can then issue a report card on how the university is going. But more than just that, we are encouraged and empowered by the leadership team to seek out barriers to inclusion. What is stopping ability equality and bring it to their attention? In 2018, the digital environment here was an issue for people with disabilities. So we went across and asked for funding. We got it. We had the funding to run an external audit. And that's pretty significant because external audit over the university's digital environment. And I've got to say, they came back with a lot of problems. There was a lot of issues. Now, management here didn't want those issues, so they set about fixing them. And that's what we wanted to happen, and that's what happened. We're still working through some of the long-term issues because the universities can make a lot of difference. We can't fix everything. But I've got to say, it was a rewarding experience, and it's got ongoing implications for policy. In 2019, staff with a disability who travel incur extra costs. Now look, I'm totally blind, right? So when I land in Boston, Moscow, London, I can't just walk out of the airport, jump on a bus, get on the train, the tram, can't read street signs. Pretty hard to get around a city. So I get a taxi. That costs extra. If you're in a wheelchair, so my colleagues in wheelchairs, they can't just stay at a backpackers. They need to stay at a hotel that has a room that is wheelchair accessible. 4- and 5-star hotels mostly, expensive. Well, we put it to the leadership team and got funding for a workshop, bringing in high-level people from around the country. We ran the workshop, wrote the report, and now they embraced it, and there's a Staff with Disabilities Travel Fund, which supports our staff with disabilities when they travel for work for costs that are additional. Amazing outcome. And the next iteration of our Disability Action Plan, coming out in 2021, I'm pretty excited by some of the things we're bringing into it. Now, one university does a lot, but one university cannot fix everything. One university alone cannot do it all. That's why we have sector-wide bodies, such as Universities Australia, the Group of 8 Limited, or in the United Kingdom, the Russell Group, in the United States, the Ivy League. These groups come together collectively to advocate for sector-wide problems. I want disability to be seen by these groups as a sector-wide problem and addressed. In 2019, I was awarded a citation by Universities Australia for my work on disability strategy. I'm leveraging off that to get disability put on their agenda, the national agenda, and I'm excited where we're heading. I'm truly excited. Now, when you leave here today, what can you do for disability inclusion? All of you today, you all can do something. If you have a group, a committee, include people with disability. If you are designing a strategy, think about disability inclusion. If you're drafting PowerPoints, make sure as many people in your audience can view them and use them. Be disability inclusive. And today, I want to leave you with a message, something which I think is profound, something that truly moves me. Universities can change the world. When disability inclusion is included in university strategy, then those universities can become disability champions of change. Then staff, students, and the wider community can benefit from a more inclusive world. And remember, you don't need sight to have vision.